The next book we're going to look at is the book of Ruth. There are 2 books in the Hebrew Bible that have a woman's name as their title, Ruth and Esther. Now, this book is a story. It is the story during the time of Judges. But there's no lawlessness, no savagery, no murders, no villains. It's a peaceful village with hardworking farmer folk. But what you see in the book of Ruth is God working behind the scenes, a God of coincidence. What we see in this book are ordinary people, ordinary women, who are overcome by adversity. In fact, that's how the book of Ruth begins. Naomi lived during a time of famine. Naomi left her family and joined the Moabites. The Moabites are outsiders. It's not the same group. And Naomi and her husband start their lives there. And their 2 boys marry Moabite girls. One is Orpah and one is Ruth. The title of the book appears. So everything seems to be going along okay for Naomi and her husband until her husband dies. Then both of her sons die. And Naomi is now bitter. She's lost everything. So she decides, as a widow at that time, and as a woman, she's powerless. So she decides to go home. She tells her daughter-in-laws, because they're Moabites, they're not from her family, her lineage, or a Hebrew, an Israelite. She tells them to go back to their families because she has nothing for them anymore. She has no more children for them, no more husbands. And Orpah goes home. Ruth does not. Ruth chooses to go with Naomi. And there is a pretty famous line in Ruth chapter 1, I think it's like verse 16 or 17. Wherever you go, I will go. Ruth is committed to staying with Naomi. And it's in this time of uncertainty that you see Ruth's commitment and confidence in love and in the relationship she has with her mother-in-law. Staying with Naomi puts her in tremendous risk of rejection, abuse, and poverty. So why does she do it? That's the question I have for you. And why would the Bible include this small story of vulnerable women in the midst of all the great stories that's going on around it? Now, Ruth's name, so I guess at this point I'd say read the book of Ruth. Yes, the entire book. Let me look, see how many chapters we got. Oops. All right, looks like we've got 4 chapters, not very long. But it also, when you get done reading the book of Ruth and understanding what happens, see how many times you can see or you believe that God somehow was working behind the scenes. And then I'd like you to go to Matthew, the gospel, and look at the lineage, because this is Jesus' genealogy. And in there you will see the name of a woman, a Moabite, whose name is Ruth. What's God doing here? How is God bringing all of us along? And how does God show God's self to us today? Do you think it's like the time of Ruth? Through coincidence? Through acts of kindness? Generosity? Enjoy the book of Ruth.